The needle exchange in Hyannis will be allowed to reopen following a special Board of Health meeting. We have details on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, November 4th, 2015. I'm Sarah Mantle. The Barnstable Board of Health held a special meeting Tuesday to address the merits of the cease and desist order issued by the Town Department of Public Health against the AIDS Support Group of Cape Cod. The AIDS Support Group is operating a needle exchange program on South Street in Hyannis. The cease and desist order was issued in September. Town Attorney Charles McLaughlin called several witnesses before the board, including Barnstable Police Detective Brian James Guinea, who described what he discovered while working with a confidential informant.
Well, during the week of September 21st of 2015, I conducted what we call a controlled buy or controlled purchase, or at this time, to obtain the needles. And that's basically, I meet with the confidential source. They explain what is going to be done. They're searched for any contraband, weapons, narcotics, monies, and then they are sent into that particular location. At this point, it was 428 South Street. I drove the informant to that location, dropped the informant off, watched the informant walk into the front door or the side door of the needle exchange program. Approximately 5 minutes later, confidential source came out and handed me a bag, a white bag, Stop and Shop Peapod bag containing numerous items.
Would you walk us through the contents of the bag and tell us, to your knowledge, what each of the items are?
The first item I'll describe, it's a box of syringes. There's 100 syringes in the box. Each bag has 10 syringes, and these are 30 gauge syringes. There's 10 of these bags inside this one box.
Is there any significance to the 30 gauge measurement for the layman in the crowd?
No, what is asked what gauge the addicts need when they go to the needle exchange program. So there are different gauges that they give them.
All right. What else did you present to us today?
These here are tins, or called cookers, for the heroin. The heroin's placed in this, they heat it up, then they take these cotton balls. The cotton balls are placed inside the tin along with the heroin. They extract the heroin through the cotton balls to purify it. You have wipes, alcohol wipes for, prior to shooting up. The two types of rubber bands, I have a blue rubber band here and a white rubber band, and basically that's just to tie off the arm prior to shooting up. You got vials of water they put in with the tins to help cook the heroin. You have other smaller kits that contain, there's 3 other smaller kits that contain a rubber band, condoms, bleach to clean the needles, more water, a Band-Aid, and some more alcohol wipes. And there are 2 cards, one's for Narcan and one for Kim Powers, Harm Reduction Specialist, AIDS Support Group of Cape Cod.
Attorney Ben Klein, who represented the AIDS Support Group of Cape Cod during the hearing, argued that the state law does not forbid anyone from distributing needles.
The only question that you must decide is whether the cease and desist order, the handwritten order and the subsequent letter, are lawful or not. And to focus us even more specifically, the order says offense. MGL 111, Section 215, and Chapter 94C, Section 27, facts. Syringes were being distributed to persons without local approval. That is the only question. Now, fortunately, the legislature has answered this question. the legislature has been very concerned for well over a couple of decades now with the public health crisis of HIV transmission and hepatitis C transmission. This is not lost on them, the devastation that these conditions have created on individuals, on families, and on our society. And I will suggest to you that the law is very clear. It is not a question of ambiguity that the legislature in 2006 deliberately, intentionally, and clearly removed every restriction, prohibition, or limitation on the possession, distribution, and exchange of needles in Massachusetts without limitation or condition. And that is the law. And they made that decision because of this public health crisis, because they understood the only way that we were going to stop people from contracting hepatitis C and HIV. And hepatitis C is the leading cause of liver transplantation in this country. We have new treatments now, but they're $100,000 a person. The only way we're going to stop that is by recognizing people may inject drugs, but they need a clean needle to do so, or we're going to have even more death on our hands in this Commonwealth.
Board of Health Chair Dr. Wayne Miller says his concern is keeping the entire population in the town of Barnstable safe from harm.
Did I hear you correctly in saying that when you do the testing, over 70% of the people that first come to you for needle exchange already have hepatitis C?
Correct.
And what percentage of the population, the non-drug use population, has hepatitis C? Do you know that?
I don't know the answer, but it's not anywhere near that number
Okay.
clearly. So, you
How
know,
long can
the risk is that if they share dirty needles, other people will contract
those
the
other
same condition.
30%. But if I have needles strewn all over town, and I have 90+% of my population not hepatitis C positive, what's the risk of them getting hepatitis C from a needle stick? How long can hep C live in that needle? Do you know?
I'm not an expert, but my belief is that it can live up to 3 weeks.
I've heard up to 6, but 3 to 6.
And that's why they take needles back. That's why they collect the needles.
Yeah, but I mean, I think looking at the pictures, you got to admit we've got a problem here.
I do, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we're not.
There's no
So-
disagreement here. The problem, the disagreement, I think, is over the solution.
Well, no, I don't think, not necessarily. I don't think that's true.
Okay.
And that's going to go to my next point, which is, you question the reason for the evidence, because I've been on this board long enough, Paul's been on other boards long enough, that I think that the powers of the board are extensive, especially if their decisions are based on strong science and with the intent to protect the overall public health. And we can act in ways that don't need to be directly spelled out by law, because they're already spelled out. I mean, the overall charge to this board in at least 2 places in Commonwealth law that I know of is that we are here to protect the public health, and we're here to do what we need to do so by enforcement, promulgation, regulations, and so on. I don't want to get into a situation where we're trying to stop people from doing what's right for this population, but it's got to be done in some kind of coordinated manner.
Ultimately, the board voted to temporarily lift the cease and desist order for a period of 1 week. The AIDS support group has been asked to seek support from the State Department of Public Health and from Barnstable Town Council. The Board of Health will take up the matter again once the week-long period has ended. We'll be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will have our high school sports segment. We'll get a preview of this week's Town Council meeting with Town Council President Jessica Rapcrissetti. Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.